Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Purple Rain Report. I know we didn't have an episode last week, but I got a jam-packed episode for you guys today. We're gonna be talking all things draft related for the Ravens, what they're gonna do in the draft, not just in the first round, like position top positions in need, and we're just gonna go down the list as far as what areas the team can get better, what positions and what players they might be targeting, and in the draft. The big hole to fill with losing Marshall Yanda to retirement. Matt Skura, a little bit of uncertainty around his knee going into the 2020 season, and we're just gonna go right down the line. I'm going to start off just with kind of outlining the team needs heading into the draft. And John Harbaugh came out and said if it's the job number one, if two, if not one, replacing Marshall Yanda. You can't replace Marshall Yanda, but as far as finding his replacement in the starting lineup is a big, huge hole there at right guard. But we're going to go with the top. To me, even though I don't view, and most experts and pundits don't view 28 as a spot for a primary star interior offensive lineman, whether it's center or at guard. A guy like Cesar Ruiz, who we're going to talk about later on in the pod, is probably the only guy who might sniff the bottom half of the first round. The interior offensive line is the top, if not one of the top needs for the team. Inside linebacker. I mean, the defense is right now is stacked back to front. It's that middle part of the defense is kind of lagging right now. I mean, you got a lot of confident guys like. I have a lot of confidence in guys like L.J. Fort, who flashed last season, showed was really good as a really versatile linebacker, both as a blitzer and in coverage, and especially on special teams. The longtime special teamer found himself a niche in the Ravens defense, so I could see him sliding into possibly that Mike linebacker role if they don't want to put a rookie in at the Mike position right away. The responsibility comes with that position, and they might want to have but you never know. They might want to have L.J. Fort in kind of that roaming role where he's not really defined as just the outside linebacker. He can come down and probably get some pressure off the edge as a blitzer or as a standing up outside Sam or rush linebacker. You can do a lot of things with L.J. Fort. Just going down the list of needs heading into the draft. Edge rusher. Spent a lot of revenue and trade capital on acquiring Calais Campbell, signing Derek Wolfe. The defensive line is looking real stout. And you can use guys like Calais and Derek on the edge. That's what they did for their former teams, especially Calais. But for the most part, those guys are going to be on the interior of the defensive line. And edge rusher outside of Matt Judon, Tyus Bowser, and Jalen Ferguson. The coverage kind of bare. So they're definitely going to want to go into the Ravens definitely going to want to go in and get at least one, if not two, edge rushers in this year's draft. There's a lot of guys that are going to be available after the first round, so they could get some guys that they can come in and be some real key contributors for the Ravens, at least in a rotational role. That role that Tim Williams never really fulfilled as that rotational third down specialist. But there are a lot of guys in this year's draft that could come in and not just be a third down specialist, but be an all around good rush linebacker opposite Judon. And then finally, I know I'm saying finally, like this is a lot of question that comes popular among a lot of Ravens fans is wide receiver. Wide receiver, I don't see it as big as a need as some people see it. For the Ravens going into this season and going forward. I know the Ravens that I've talked about surrounding Lamar with more weapons, but I just don't think that wide receiver is like really like as dire of a need as people are making it out to be. The cover's not bare receiver for the Ravens. Marquise Brown showed a lot as a rookie, even though he struggled to stay healthy, just he's still recovering from the Liz Frank and had to deal with the ankle injury. But I do have the Ravens have a lot of confidence in him and expect a lot from Mouse work in year two. We're going to get into that later on. And so those are the top needs for the Ravens heading into the 2020 NFL draft. It's to take place a week from now. Recording this podcast in about it was like 2 a.m. Eastern time. I'm up here in Anchorage, Alaska. It's about 10:52 up here. So 4 hour time difference with Eastern time, but the draft will take place virtually next Thursday. So those are the top needs for the Ravens heading into the NFL, the 2020 NFL draft. Just going down the line again, interior offensive line, like I said, the uncertainty around Mascara's knee. It was a serious injury he suffered. Marshall Yanda's replacement, inside linebacker, edge rusher, and then wide receiver. There's not in no particular order, even though offensive line is he's the top, if not one of the top two needs But it's kind of a toss up as far as the other, for the pecking order as far as where the Ravens might prioritize. It really depends on how the board falls. Not necessarily they're going to just take a guy just because that's the range, that's the pick or the round they want to take a guy. This is not a team that reaches for players by any means. They always go with the best player available strategy, and I anticipated that Eric DeCosta will continue that trend going into his second year at the helm in charge of the draft. So as far as in-house options for those positions, we're going to start off with interior offensive line, and starting off with the right guard, or Marciano just vacated. The front runner right now is going to be Ben Powers. He was a rookie last year, fourth round draft pick out of Oklahoma. He's real popular among the team. He's considered the front runner as of right now. But the Ravens are the kind of team that aren't an organization that's going to give a guy a starting job. They're going to bring in some high caliber competition to compete with him and push him. And the really best man's going to win that job. A lot of people didn't give Bradley Bozeman a lot of chance to win the starting left guard spot coming out of training camp last year. A lot of people thought it was going to be Power starting at left guard, or perhaps the Jermaine Illuminor, Alex Lewis, but ended up being Bradley Bozeman. So he's considered a front runner right now. Patrick McCary, he came in for Matt Skura after he went down last year and played real well, undrafted free agent out of San Diego State. And then Bradley Bozeman, he started all 60 games at left guard last year, but people forget, he's a sixth round pick out of Alabama in 2018. He started his entire career at Alabama for Nick Saban at center. So this is a guy with position versatility. Yeah, he may have played left guard all last year, but there's nothing saying that he won't be in He was in competition with Skura last offseason for the center position as well. And Skura ended up winning it outright, but it was really, the competition was a lot closer than people were giving credit for. So Bradley Bozeman could be a guy that, if McCurry kind of doesn't take the next step in his development, and Matt Skura starts the year on PUP, he's still working his way back. I was watching one of his progress videos he was posting when he was squatting in his garage. The dude looks strong, but he's just now being able to squat 300 pounds. And for a guy who's down near 300 pounds, if not over 300 pounds, that's not a whole lot. So I mean, it's progress, but it's still a long way from being game ready, being able to move and maul 300 plus pound defensive lineman. So he has a while to go, and there's no telling when he's going to be able to return back to the lineup. So Patrick McCary, the Ravens have a lot of faith in him. He did play well down the stretch in relief of Matt Skura, but also Bradley Bozeman is another option there at center. We're just focused on in-house options right now. Moving on to inside linebacker. Not as many in-house options. It's really just the trio of former undrafted free agents. And LJ Fort, he was signed midway through last year as part of that mid-season reclamation project that Eric DeCosta put together for the Ravens defense to help them turn it around. He was one of a couple guys, along with Josh Bynes, that kind of came in and helped turn the defense around after a sluggish start, 2-2 start to the year. And then there's Chris Board, who was, really good guy that kind of was considered a starter coming out of training camp. He kind of pretty much earned that role next to Peanut, and then I think injuries had kind of derailed his start of his season. And then by the time he was really healthy and ready to go again, Josh Bynes already slid into that Mike linebacker role after being signed, and Peanut went back to his natural will linebacker spot. And so he didn't really fall out of favor. It was just like lack of opportunities. But Chris Board is definitely another guy that he was neck and neck against guys like Kenny Young and some of the other guys as far as that starting will linebacker spot during training camp before they signed Jabines and slided Peanut back over to his natural spot at the will linebacker position. Another guy, dark horse candidate, but I don't really expect it. But you never know. Ravens are great at finding undrafted free agents out of Texas A&M last year. Is Otoro Alaka, like I said, he's a great special teamer. Played real well in some special teams in the preseason last fall. But like I said, he's really a dark horse candidate. Don't really see him kind of challenging Chris Board or LJ Fort for snaps, unless he just comes out and has an amazing training camp. You never know. Guys usually make the biggest jump from year one to year two, and that's what was going to happen with Chris Board before he got hurt, and maybe Toro Alaka might have that kind of similar kind of jump and surprise some people. But LJ Ford's definitely going to be in the middle linebacker rotation. The Ravens might implore unless they get a stud guy in the first round like a Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray or even Zach Bond. I wasn't really a huge fan of Zach Bond coming into this thing just because not that wasn't a huge fan of him. Didn't think he fit the Ravens. He's the Ravens kind of guy, Senior Bowl dude, very versatile. But I'm just like, man, we haven't really had too much success with those versatile middle slash outside linebackers in the past. We tried to do that with Kwame like Correa, and it just didn't work out there. He was really just an edge guy. He should have been playing an edge guy, but we're trying to kind of do too much with him and kind of stunted his growth a little bit. Tried that with Tyus Bowsley, showed some flashes of that his rookie year. Had an interception against the Browns. Was named Pepsi Rookie of the Week. I think with week 3 back in 2017 it was when they picked up Deshaun Kaiser. But he's just he just like I said, one of those guys that he just because a guy can play both inside and outside doesn't mean he necessarily should. And Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network had a great thought about how the Ravens might be able to utilize a guy like Zach Bond, who did have 12 and a half sacks last year for Wisconsin, but also had almost 100 tackles. A guy who could play his inside outside versatility. He was saying that he could be an off ball inside linebacker on first and second down, stuff to run, and then since he has the ability to be a pass rusher, rush the passer on third down. I think that's an excellent idea. And if both Patrick Queen and Kenneth Murray are gone, and Zach Bond, somehow gets past the Patriots, because as much as we value versatility along our defensive front, especially at linebacker and at defensive line, so do the New England Patriots. I mean, that's why you see guys like Kyle Van Noy, Dante Hightower, Jamie Collins. Those guys are kind of jack of all trades. I wouldn't even call it jack of all trades because they're not just jack. They don't just do things okay. They excel at all those things. So I think if he makes it past the Patriots at 24, if they somehow miraculously take a quarterback, or maybe go a different direction there, or maybe take an edge guy and different edge guy like maybe AJ Epinesa from Ohio. I mean, from Iowa, or Artur Gross Matos from Penn State, then maybe the guy like Zach Bond from Wisconsin might fall to the Ravens at 28. But who knows? Moving on to Edge, in-house options for Edge right now is just Matt Judon. Coming off, he franchise tagged this offseason, coming off a career year when he made his first Pro Bowl bid, registered 9.5 sacks, and is really kind of the lead dog there on the edge, returning a sack leader from a year ago. And unless he gets traded, I think he's going to be the leading sack artist in 2020. And then there's Jalen Ferguson, the third round pick out of Louisiana Tech from last year. He appeared in 14 games as a rookie, including 9 starts. He only had 2.5 sacks, but showed a lot of promise down the stretch. He had 31 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 9 quarterback hits. The guy, aka Sack Daddy, broke Terrell's. Some people, most Ravens fans all know this, call him Sack Daddy. That was his nickname in college because he broke Terrell Suggs' college career sack record. Another guys, like I mentioned previously, is Tyus Bowser. Tyus Bowser quietly had a nice season last year. The guy didn't start a single game, played in all 16 games, didn't make a single start. The former second round pick in 2017 out of Houston, heading into the final year of his rookie contract, expecting when he wanted to have a good season to break the bank. For a guy who doesn't, like I said, he sees the field regularly. He gets in rotation, but never really makes a start. He had a quietly productive season in 2019, where he finished second on the team in sacks with with a career high 5 sacks, and he had 24 total tackles, 10 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss, and interception, forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery there. He returned 33 yards for a touchdown. So that's another guy as a candidate for possibly breakout candidate in year 4. But he might be one of those Ravens outside linebackers that might price himself out of Baltimore if he has a productive season in the fall, which I do anticipate a lot of the Ravens the outside linebackers having a productive season just because of the level of interior pass rush that the guys like Calais and Brandon Williams and Derek Wolf are going to be able to get on as far as pushing the pocket and collapsing it from the inside. And I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to be kind of running for their lives because they're going to have a lot of pressure in their face right into the arms of guys like Tyus, Matt, and Jalen, and whoever else they bring on. So those are the interior and internal options from as far as the edge perspective, and from the from the receiver perspective, in-house options is Marquise Hollywood Brown, as we all know, first round pick out of Oklahoma from last year. Appeared in 14 games as a rookie. Started 11 of them. Put up a respectable 584 yards on 46 catches. He also tied the franchise record for rookie receptions, receiving touchdowns with 7, despite still recovering from a Liz Frank foot injury and an ankle, and he struggled with an ankle sprain for much of the season. He was still able to put up good numbers, and even more so than that, the numbers themselves don't really always tell the tale of a guy's impact. Just think about it: on 46 catches, only 500 some odd yards, still had 7 touchdowns. It was the impact that he, that big play threat, that deep threat he brought to the team, he brought to the offense. Even when people tried to load the box against Lamar, just stop the running ability, the dude killed you with his arm. Led the league in passing touchdowns, 36 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and since a lot of teams would load the box to try to stop Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards in that ferocious running attack that broke the league record, single season record. I left a lot of opportunities for guys like Marquise Brown to make plays downfield, which he did on several occasions. I just think back at that Thursday night game against the Jets, where he had that crazy catch in the back of the end zone, got both feet down. Shades of his cousin, minus the crazy. Just playing, but in all seriousness. Another guy that flashed as a rookie was Miles Boykin, third round pick out of Notre Dame last year. He appeared in all 16 games, made 11 starts. He's a great downfield blocker. A lot of people sleep, just because he didn't put up huge numbers as far as his receiving stats. Only 13 catches on the year for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns. But he's a great downfield blocker. I can remember several times with guys like Lamar Jackson breaking long runs, Mark Ingram breaking runs, and Gus Edwards breaking runs. Like, I think I think the 60-yard run that Gus had against, I forget if it was against the Bengals or somebody, where he ripped off the put away run against some team later in the season. I remember Miles Boykin had a clean block on there and was really kind of paving the way as an extra long fullback downfield. So that's really cool. But he did flash times as both a deep and a red zone threat. I think all 3 of his touchdowns came in the red zone. One of them came in week 1. Another one came. God, one of his other touchdowns. Oh yeah, one came against the Jets on that same Thursday night. But Miles Boykin he's a big body dude, huge red zone threat. He's kind of, he flashed those things that people expected to see out of him coming out of Notre Dame last year. And the Ravens are expecting huge contributions from him, a big leap. Like I said, guys usually make the biggest leap from year 1 to year 2, and the Ravens are expecting a big leap from Miles Boykin in year 2. And I personally think Miles Boykin is going to have a tremendous year 2. Like I said, don't get caught up in the receiving numbers as a whole. You gotta really, because like in the offense the Ravens run, that's so run heavy, it's still balanced in the way, because even though the Ravens are in the bottom half of the league as far as passing attempts, when they do pass the ball, it may not be high volume, but the potency is just as high as if they were high volume. And you guys always about maximizing those opportunities, and the Ravens do that better than anybody else, considering the amount of times they don't put the ball on the air, but when they do, they make it count. So guys like Miles Boykin can be the benefactor of a lot of teams still trying to load that box against Lamar and some of the other teams. Just thinking back to that 50-yard catch he had against the Seahawks in Week 7. Just get behind it. He should flash right there. He can get behind the defense as big as he is. He's still like one of those long striders that can really get behind it and split the defense down the middle, down the seam. So expect big things from Miles Boykin, and he's the exact reason why I don't think the Ravens are going to take a receiver in the first round. Maybe the second round pick. That's as high as I see them taking a receiver, but not in the first round. I just don't think the value is there as deep as this class is. I think that the Ravens might wait to take a receiver. Eric Costa even came out and said in the pre-draft press conference presser that they're going to be receivers, the starting caliber receivers, or guys that can come in and contribute in the later rounds, in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. So don't be surprised if the Ravens don't take one of those guys early. Don't be surprised if you see linebacker interior lineman edge, or linebacker interior defensive lineman edge. I know there's going to be offensive linemen in the first 2 rounds. But like I said, don't be surprised if the Ravens hold off on taking receiver just because of what they have in Miles Boykin. Another guy to be on the lookout for is Willie Snead. His stats saw a significant drop in year 2 with the Ravens after posting pretty respectable numbers in year 1. His His targets went down. He only had 46 targets, caught 31 of his 46 targets for only 339 yards. But he only scored one touchdown in his first year with the Ravens. But it went up to 5 touchdowns last season. Like I said, don't get caught up. Don't get too caught up in the numbers and the receiving stats for these receivers. Outside of Mark Andrews, you're not going to see a whole lot of guys in the Ravens offense put up 1,000 yard seasons or really get close to it. Maybe Marquise Brown, but I'm saying don't expect him to be a recurring 1,000 yard receiver. What you need to be looking to pay more attention to is the touchdowns. How many times does that guy get into the end zone? That's really where you make your bread and butter. You can march up the field all day, but if you're not punching the ball in the end zone, not scoring points, then it's all for naught in the end. If they really see his effectiveness as a scorer was came up more in 2019 than it was in 18. He's still a sure-handed receiver in the slot. Still one of Lamar Jackson's most trusted guys. When he's looking for a big play to kind of move the chains, he's usually looking for either Mark Andrews and then Willie Snead's kind of the next guy he goes to with progressions. So Willie Snead, they did resign Chris Moore, but that's more of a special teams thing than it was for as far as receiving threat. He's one of the best special teamers, not just on the team but in the league. And he got my vote. Him and Matthew Slater, best gunners in the league in my opinion. But yeah, Jaleel Scott's another guy, an in-house option guy. He lit up the preseason last year, but he just wasn't able to crack the game day roster on in year two for him. He sat out all of 2018. The former New Mexico State product sat out all of 2018 with a hamstring injury. He was placed on IR. Only had one catch for 6 yards in the regular season, but like I said, it wasn't because of lack of talent. It's more so lack of opportunity. Just because it's a simple numbers game. The Ravens don't use the receivers a whole lot in the passing offense outside of three guys, and it's kind of hard for Jaleel to kind of find his niche or get earned opportunities to be on the active game in the roster since the Ravens, like I said, hardly used they weren't they had more three tight end sets than they had three receiver sets. Let's leave it at that. So that's it for as far as in-house options for those positions that we listed previously: interior offensive line, inside linebacker, edge rusher, and wide receiver. Now we're going to move towards the guys in the draft that could fit those positions of need that the Ravens might be looking at and targeting. I mentioned it earlier, Cesar Ruiz from Michigan. Jim Harbaugh is the coach of Michigan, so the Ravens got plenty of intel on all the Michigan products. They've taken quite a few guys out of Michigan since Jim Harbaugh's been there. Even though they just traded Chris Wormley, he was a guy that came in from Michigan and played some meaningful snaps for Ravens over his first 3 years in the league. But yeah, he's widely viewed as the best interior offensive lineman prospect in this year's draft and considered a fringe first round pick. So, if the Ravens don't value him as high at 28, maybe, the Ravens are always looking to trade back. So we're going to get into that a little bit later too. But maybe if in the trade back scenario, when they trade into the bottom half, well, they're already in the bottom half of the first round, but if they trade to the bottom of the first round, say like a team like, I don't know, Tennessee wanted to come up a spot or the Packers wanted to come up a spot, I don't see the Niners being wanted to trade up just because they don't have that many picks. But say, a player that the Chiefs really covet might be, sliding down the board, and they might want to come up from 32 to 28 to get a guy before he comes off the board. It might be a running back or, a guy like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift if they're still on the board. So who knows? That might be a more reasonable spot to take a guy like Cesar Ruiz, who does have some flexibility as far as being able to play both guard and center. Another guy in that second round range is a guy Natane Muti from Fresno State, projected to be a mid to late second round pick. 6'3", 350 pounds. That's not huge, but Marciano wasn't all that big either, but he was still a road grader, and that's what Muti was in college. The dude put up the most bench press reps. The dude's strong. He's strong. He island is strong. Those Polynesians, they don't play in the weight room. Some of them are just naturally strong. Put up the most bench press reps at the combine with 44. He dealt with some injuries his last 2 seasons in college, recovered from both of them and played well. He had an Achilles in 2018 and then a shoulder injury last year. But like I said, Marshawn is a guy who dealt with injuries too in his time and recovered well, and we always recovered better, came back better than he was before. So Muti, the guy I really like. I always love it when the Ravens have at least one poly on the line. You know, they the guys from that culture, just kind of bring a certain level of aggressiveness and nastiness to the game that you really want, especially in a position like offensive line where they're gonna be trying to impose their will on other people. And like I've played with plenty of Polynesians, and I love watching them play. They play with a certain level of nastiness that you just really admire, especially in positions such as offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. A lot of those positions just really like those grinder, big hitter, kind of not even necessarily big hitter, even though they like playing big hits, but just like those positions where you need somebody strong, but somebody's he's gonna put in work and really impose the will on another human being. So like Netane Muti is a guy that the Ravens might be interested in. Another guy is Louisiana Lafayette, Robert Hunt from the Raging Cajuns. Another strong run blocker. He's a big dude. I mean, he's taller than Muti. He's 6'5", 223. And that 223 might be a little generous because they do look heavier than that when I watch him on film. And he's a big guy. Might be available in round three. So if the Ravens don't get Muti or one of the other guys in round two, that a guy like Hunt might be available for them in round three. They got two picks in the third round, two picks in the second. So the Ravens are definitely getting the interior offensive lineman in one or both of those rounds, depending on how the board falls. As far as inside linebacker, like I said, they've been linked to guys like I already talked about Zach Bond. They've been linked to guys like Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen all throughout the offseason. Pretty much every mock draft has been taking at least one of those guys. I think in Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, he had him taking Patrick Queen. As far as who I like between both of those guys, I'll tell you why I would pick Queen over Murray for the simple fact that I feel like Queen is the more instinctual guy in coverage. He was only like a 1 year starter for the LSU Tigers last year, and didn't even start the entire season. But he showed enough in the games in which he did start to show you that he can be a playmaker at the next level, especially in the passing game. He's the kind of guy that you would see get a lot of picks in zone coverage and kind of falling into the passing lanes, reading the eyes of the quarterback. The kind of see ball, get ball kind of guys, not just see ball, hit the ball carry kind of guys. But out of the two, I really favor Kenneth Murray. The Ravens have had a recent history of taking former Oklahoma Sooners, and a guy like Kenneth Murray had nothing but glowing reviews since from coming out of the combine, from his interview process. He's more of that field general. I know Chuck Clark calls the plays for Ravens on defense, but Kenneth Murray's the guy that could eventually, kind of be the guy that could come in and get the green dot and allow Chuck Clark to kind of have more free range in the back end and get his hand on some more balls, become more of a ball hawk than just a field general and dime linebacker in some of the sub packages. So Kenneth Murray, I think, would be a great pick for the Ravens at 28. In the mock draft I did for the My Sports Field, go check us out at mysportsfield.com. I did have the Ravens picking up Kenneth Murray at pick 28. But say all three of those guys are gone. Say Zach Bond is gone, Kenneth Murray is gone, and Patrick Queen are gone. There's some other guys in the later rounds that the Ravens could have their eyes on that would be great fits for the team, and or at least play some kind of rotational roles where they could be like there's some guys like a Jordan Brooks or Malik Harrison from Jordan Brooks from Texas Tech, Malik Harrison from Ohio State. Those are your two down linebackers, big run stuffers. Malik Harrison especially is that dude lays the wood. And when you come across the middle, he's laying you out with some of them Ray Lewis hits. He's the guy that can really bring the hammer down going across the middle, and is really former high school quarterback, played a little receiver at Ohio State before switching linebacker to get some more playing time. But he's a guy that could be he's a bit of a liability in coverage. He had some good moments, but he's better. He's one of those guys that's better suited in the box. Kind of staying around the line of scrimmage, being disruptive that way, playing at first, second down, and coming off the field on third down when the Ravens want to get or obvious passing situations where they want to get probably more defensive backs on the field. He might be one of the guys that comes off the field. He's a guy that can go anywhere in the second, third, or fourth round. A guy like Jordan Brooks has been picking up some steam here as of late. He's Peter Schrager of Good Morning Football had him going to the Packers at 30 in his latest mock draft. I don't think he's going to go in the first round, but he might sneak his way into the middle to late second round. A guy like Jordan Brooks, he's dude, a tackling machine at Texas Tech, and he had his best season to date. Last season for the Red Raiders. He's one of those guys that really he's really good at kind of shooting gaps and filling holes before the running backs can hit him. And so he's one of those guys that can really kind of fly around the line of scrimmage, not necessarily sideline to sideline, but kind of like C gap to C gap. He's one of those guys that's really gonna just like stuff the run, shoot the gaps, and not really let anybody get past them in the running game. Some other guys that can kind of be more three down guys would be a guy like Willie Gay Jr. from Mississippi State. Didn't have a whole lot of production in Mississippi State, but he's athletic as hell. He blew up the combine. If it wasn't for Isaiah Simmons, he would have had the fastest 40-yard dash at the combine for linebackers. He ran a 4.46 and looked real smooth in some of the agility and in pass coverage drills. He's the guy that be look. He'd be a guy that wouldn't have to come off the field and throw it down because he's shown that at least at Mississippi State that he could be the guy that kind of fall back in the passing lanes, read out the quarterbacks real well, and get his hand on balls. He'd be one of those guys to be like I said about Patrick Queen, one of those guys to be great in zone coverage. Not necessarily man, but he like Patrick Queen could play it all. That guy, he could play man, zone, whatever you need him to do. The dude's a crazy freaky athlete. But a guy like William Gay Jr., I'd be better suited in the zone coverage scheme. The Ravens run a mixture of both, but he's the kind of guy that's athletic enough to where his coverage skills, he's good at flipping his hip and opening them up, and so that he'd be able to kind of stay in the hip pocket of some guys if need be. Maybe not against elite running backs like say Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, but he might be able to to stay with a guy like Joe Mixon from Cincinnati or Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb coming out of the backfield out of Cleveland. The guys that we're going to be seeing 2 times a year. So Willie Gay Jr. and then the last guy I want to talk about as far as in the draft, outside of the first round draft picks for the Ravens is Akeem Davis Butler from Appalachian State. He's kind of he was being talked about a lot coming out of the season, but he suffered an injury that kind of kept him out of the combine. But this is the dude I really really like coming out of Appalachian State. He grew up idolizing Ray Lewis. I'm gonna read you a quote from here. My idol was Ray Lewis, so that would mean a lot to me to be taken by the Ravens, to suit up for the Ravens and be able to take that step in his shoes. It would just be a wonderful experience and an awesome experience. So I think a guy like Akeem Davis Butler, that's the kind of dude. He doesn't just play middle linebacker. He's great as a blitzer off the edge. He has great length. He might need to bulk up a little bit to make the kind of plays and hold his own in the run game as far as getting out to that. He has the speed to get out to the edge, to get to meet guys and the C gaps and off tackle. But if he wants to get off blocks, especially if you get those pulling guards, you might want to beef up a little bit. But he has the kind of unique blend of size and explosiveness and lateral quickness to make him such a luring prospect. The team's really the kind of versatile. He can play downhill, but he can also say play in coverage too. He's sneaky good in coverage. Like I've seen a couple of clips of him where he was just kind of like kind of tricked the quarterback into thinking that he was covering a man in the flat and fell underneath the guy who was running a shallow crosser. So is one of those guys who has really good instincts. I like him a lot, and he 6'1", 6'1", good height. 230 pounds though. You might want to put on some weight. But I know that it might be a little bit of a problem as a rookie, just considering the kind of climate we're in with the whole coronavirus thing. You might not be able to get into an NFL weight room until training camp. So I don't want him to put on too much weight too fast. But once he's been drafted, if the Ravens could kind of get a trainer, if he gets drafted by the Ravens, I'm not putting it out there. I'm not I don't have any inside information here. It's just just like educated guesses based off of information that I've gathered from multiple reports and from listening to the team and listening to the Costa, some of the other guys in the organization. So I said Akeem Davis Butler would be my front runner if I was there to Costa. That's the guy I'd be looking for outside of the first round. If one of those three guys that we mentioned, Bond, Queen, or Murray aren't available at 28, or if they don't value that position as high at 28, if they want to go a different direction in 28, there are other guys that it's a linebacker that can be had at that position. As far as edge rushers, the guys in draft that the Ravens could be eyeing on. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of quality edge rushers in this draft. I mean, in perfect world, we'd love to have Chase Young, but that's just not going to happen. I did write a piece for my sports ball as far as who's the second best edge rusher in this draft class, and it really all depends on your flavor. If you want a guy who's like uber athletic, not have a whole lot of potential, not have a whole lot of production, but a whole lot of potential, or extremely high ceiling, you might want to get a guy like a Clevon Chase on from LSU. I don't think he's going to be around for Ravens pick at 28. I think he's tailor made for the Falcons. They love guys with with high ceilings, and and low floors because the guy cut Clavon Chase on. I mean, I don't know, man. He just has Barkevius Mingo and Arden Key written all over him. I mean, those guys are okay. Came to the league. They came out coming out of LSU. They were talked about as, oh, can't miss prospects, and the sky's the limit with this guy. But something about those LSU edge rushers, man. Don't get me wrong, they come up with some good middle linebackers, but their outside linebackers just haven't been the bee's knees. They've been some of the more overhyped prospects coming into the draft in years past. Like I said, Barkevius Mingo never lived to his potential with the Browns or the Seahawks, whatever, or all the other teams he went to. Arden Key has been average at best with the Raiders, and now they got Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell, so he's kind of an afterthought there. So I mean, like I said, hopefully I do. I'm not rooting against Clavon Chase on. I just that wouldn't be my pick if he were to start sliding. I don't see the Ravens trading up for anybody really, unless a guy like Isaiah Simmons has some kind of like draft night scandal that breaks out. He starts tumbling down the board. Even then, I don't think he'd fall enough to where the Ravens would be enticed to give up what they'd have to give up to go up and get him. But he did have, in his production in 2019, he had 60 tackles, 13 and a half for loss, and they came on strong. He finished the year with 6.5 sacks, but he came on strong there in the final stretch, as the Tigers were pursuing their national championship and ultimately got it. Another guy I really like is Terry Gross Matos from Penn State. A very interesting story. I mean, the dude lost his dad very young, lost his little brother his older brother at a very young age, was struck by lightning. But that's off the field. Great story and all. But on the field, the dude is an absolute specimen. I mean, his wingspan, he's like NBA level wingspan. And dude at 6'5", 266 pounds, he's like 82 and 2/8. I don't know what to put that 2/8 thing in, but he has 82-inch wingspan. I mean, he's the kind of dude that can wrap around you 2, 3 times, and you're not getting away from him. But he has the kind of versatility to play, five technique in sub packages if needed. But he could also and play in attacking your 3-4 hybrid 3-4 defense like the Ravens play. So I do like him a lot. He's proven production at 17 sacks in the last 2 seasons. Last season for the Nittany Lions, he had 40 tackles, 15 for loss, and 9.5 sacks. Another guy I really like and who the Ravens been mocked to in a couple mock drafts is AJ Epinesa from Iowa. The Ravens love those Iowa guys. We lost Marshall Yanda this offseason, but like just bringing in another hard nosed grinder dude like AJ Panessa. He's the kind of guy that even though he had a lot of production at Iowa, just because he didn't blow up the combine and really had one of the poorer performances at the combine, he might fall to where the Ravens he might be on the board when the Ravens are picking at 28, and that's definitely a guy that the Ravens taking. The Ravens do value tape over all else. They could give a crap if a dude didn't blow up the combine. Just think about it. Terrell Suggs didn't blow up the combine. Went on to be Defensive Player of the Year, future Hall of Famer, helped us win the Super Bowl, helped the Chiefs win theirs this past season, and like I said, first ballot Hall of Famer. He didn't blow up the combine, and look what happened to him. And went on to have a successful career. Orlando Brown Jr. had historically the worst combine performance of anyone in combine history. As far as like what was expected of him and his 40 time and I think he only put up 13 reps on the bench. But now look at him, Pro Bowl right tackle. He shouldn't have been an alternate. He should have been at the first ballot Pro Bowl right tackle in year 2. But he's already established himself as one of the better right tackles in just 2 years in the league. So, like I said, combine performances don't make or break a guy. Epinesa had 49 tackles and 14 and a half for a loss and 11 and a half sacks last year for the Hawkeyes. So that's a guy that the Ravens would definitely like to have, would definitely welcome to have. And to me, he's the best edge setter in this draft too. I mean, a lot of people don't take a whole lot of pride in that, but he's a guy that can really set that edge. He has extremely strong and heavy hands that kind of like get on stand those tackles up and not let guys get to the outside on him. The Ravens kind of struggled containing outside zone runs last year, as we saw against the 49ers, and then again against the Titans in the playoffs. But like the guy like AJ Epinesa, I already mentioned Zach Bond. But just for reference, Zach Bond had 12 and a half sacks last year. So this is a guy like Jeremiah said, could be a off the ball linebacker on first and second down, and then come down and rush the quarterback off the edge. And on third down, he had 19 and a half tackles for loss and 12 and a half sacks. So that's none too shabby. Another guy, Terrell Lewis from the University of Alabama. He's Ravens historically like Alabama guys, and the Terrell Lewis is definitely one of those. It definitely fits that prototypical edge rush profile that a lot of teams covet. He's not too bulky, but he's a real lanky guy. He's the kind of dude that that can get has great bend off the edge. He really dip underneath tackles, even though he's on the taller side. But he's one of those guys to be excellent and slipping between the A and then B gaps on loops and stunts and twists and stuff like that. He showed that a lot as a situational pass rusher for the Crimson Tide last year. He's been battling some injuries in the past couple of years, but he did come out and have a breakout season this year for the Alabama, 31 tackles, 11 and a half for loss, and 6 sacks. As just a situational guy, so that's a guy that the Ravens might have their eye on. Just that the whole Alabama to the Ravens connection. And then my favorite pass rusher in this draft is a man named Bradley Anai from the University of Utah. Now he has the most relentless motor of any of the guys that I've watched tape on this year, and possibly his motor just never stops. The guy plays to and through the whistle, and he doesn't stop going at you until somebody has to pull him off of you. Especially if you're a quarterback. He has the most violent hands I've seen of anybody I've watched tape on. He gets the offensive lineman's hand. They can't get hands on him because by the time you try to get that initial punch on him, he's already slap chopping him away, and coming and barreling down on your quarterback. So he's a guy that utilizes his hands really good to get off blocks, get inside position, or get around offensive tackles around the edge. He's the kind of guy that can beat you inside, beat you outside. Like he has a nifty spin move. I've seen him use a couple of times. He is capable of dropping back in coverage, preferably in the flat. You don't want to see him one-on-one covering one of those receiving backs or elite guys. When we were out down the field, he's at his best when he's getting pressure on the quarterback, but he does have that ability to drop back in coverage. He's at his best. He can do a 2 or 3 point stance. He has great athleticism and great bend coming around the edge. And I really expect to hear his name called on the second day of the draft. Possibly, as early as early second round pick. I hope that he's there for the Ravens in the middle of the second round, or maybe if the Ravens trade back and get another second round pick. Bradley and I just screams Ravens to me. Like I said, one of those Polynesian dudes that really plays with a nasty demeanor that you just really love to see from guys who play on the edge, especially. Like I said, violent hands is the best thing you can have when you're playing that position. He had 41 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 13 sacks last year. So yeah, Bradley and I. That's he's my favorite edge rusher in this draft outside of Chase Young, of course. But I think I think he could have he could have the kind of Max Crosby effect. Like Max Crosby wasn't too heralded coming out of Eastern Michigan last year, and he ended up outproducing guys who were drafted way ahead of him, including the guy that on his own team was drafted fourth overall, Cleveland Farrell. Max Crosby had double-digit sacks as a rookie. I see Bradley and not having a similar effect just because he has all those intangibles that you like to see from veteran, edge rushers, defensive end slash outside linebackers, and I think he has that capability of doing that and being productive at that. So Bradley and I, that's it for the edge rushers. Moving on to receivers. Yeah, receivers. This is I'm gonna try to speed through these because we're running kind of long here. But as far as first round candidates for receivers, the Ravens might have their eyes on. I don't see them taking a receiver in the first round. I highly doubt it. But a guy like Denzel Mims, who I got him listed as like a Miles Boykin clone, just because he does all the things that Miles Boykin can do. He's a good downfield blocker, contested catch guy, big body dude. He's not neither one of those guys, Miles nor Mims, or refined route runners, but they can get behind the defense with their deceptive long speed and the contested one area that Denzel Mims is a little better than Miles Boykin at. I mean, they both excel at this trait, but Denzel Mims especially is that contested catch specialist. I mean, the dude led the all college football since 2017 in contested catches with 39 of them. So he's the kind of guy that can go up and get it, back shoulder fades, wherever you put it, he'll go up there and get it. But I just don't see the Ravens taking a guy like him just because they already have a guy like him already on the roster in Miles Boykin. Now, if he's available somewhere in the second round and then the board falls the way in which he's the best player available, then I do believe that they'll go out and get a guy like that. Just because you can never have enough guys that can go up and make plays like that. Another possible first round pick would be a guy like Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. I got him as a rack specialist because he's rack. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term, is run after catch specialist. Just that dude. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he can make anything happen. I mean, I just love watching him weave through defenses. He also brings return ability to the table. The Ravens are still looking for returner. They did bring back the Anthony Thomas on a 1 year deal, but they could be looking for a younger, more explosive option. DT didn't really have the effect on the return game that a lot of people were expecting. Ravens did sign him midway through last season, but maybe a guy like Brandon Ayuk, if they want to take him at the bottom of the first round, come in and be that. He also has a kind of the kind of versatility to kind of run some of those end arounds, things like that. Kind of play a bit of a wing back. We're going to get some more wing backs here in a little bit, but as far as guys that with first round grades, Denzel Mims, Brandon Ayuk, guys with second round grades on them, guy like Michael Pittman, from USC. I got him his comparison, his comp to me. He reminds me of another a former USC Trojan and Juju Smith-Schuster, one of those tough, gritty receivers that can also make a lot of plays downfield, can play inside, outside, and when can get go up, and he's really good at stacking defensive backs and kind of getting on top of them. A really good route runner. But Michael Pittman is from USC. He's another guy I could see, with the second round grade that could possibly be an option there for the Ravens in the second round if they were to go that route. A guy like Chase Claypool, another former Notre Dame dude. He kind of blew up the combine the same way that DK Metcalf did, but as we all know, DK Metcalf fell to the bottom of the second round last year, more so because of injury concerns and lack of flexibility. But a guy like Chase Claypool, who's played receiver in college, he played with Miles Boykin. He played receiver, but he's another guy who I've listed as a Miles clone, just because he. It's similar build, similar playing style, but the people are talking about moving him to having him play tight end when he gets to the next level. He kind of reminds me of Darren Waller. Not Darren Waller at the beginning of his career when he was playing receiver, but Darren Waller how he is now as that exclusively pass catching tight end. I see a guy like Chase Claypool being that role. The Ravens may be in the market for a pass catching tight end and a slash receiver. And if they can kill two birds with one stone with Chase Claypool, I think that's definitely on the table. Another guy, one of my favorite receivers in the draft, Laviska Shenault out of Colorado. I mean, this guy to me he's a Deebo Samuel's clone. For those of you who aren't familiar with Deebo Samuel and the impact he had for the San Francisco 49ers last year, he's kind of one of those guys along with Tariq Hill. It kind of it's bringing back the whole wing back position to the league, a guy that you can hand the ball to coming out of the backfield or at a straight running formation, not just on jet sweeps or toss sweeps or pitches and stuff like that. He's the kind of guy that you can really like use as a de facto running back, and on some of the speed on those the speed sweeps, the jet sweeps, and speed option plays. A guy like Laviska Shenault who can also make plays downfield as a receiver too. He's one of those versatile weapons. He struggled with some injuries in college, but he's a guy that can really see coming in and having that kind of impact. Yeah, another guy probably going to go in the second round, possibly even talked about as a potential first round pick, is a guy like Jalen Reagor from TCU. I got him. I got him listed as another kind of Deebo Samuel's guy, just because he can do a lot of the same things that like I said, that wingback is becoming a real popular among NFL offenses nowadays, especially because there's an upward matriculation from college football to the NFL. When you see a guy that you can utilize in space and get him the ball by any means necessary, a guy like a Jalen Reagor and Laviska Shenault that can kind of get the ball to on the fly off a handoff for a speed sweep, then do it. Jalen Reagor also he's electric in the open field, makes a lot of guys miss, has blazing speed, and can really do some great things with the ball in his hand. He could have put up better numbers at TCU if he had a better quarterback, but he's a guy that can definitely come in and play that role for the Ravens. He also has a lot of return ability too. So, and like I said, the Ravens are looking for somebody to bring some juice to the return game. Jalen Reagor could be that guy. Yeah, KJ Hamler from Penn State, another guy who's said return ability. But he reminds me of Hollywood Brown, but except with return ability. Hollywood's not a a returner. I'm pretty sure if we put him back there, they did a couple times, but they keep off the ball. So I don't see Hollywood taking any more snaps back there at punt return, kick return. But a guy like KJ Hamler, it really made a lot of plays downfield. Like Hollywood Brown, I don't see the Ravens taking two like short little receivers 2 years in a row. But if like I said, it's all about how the board falls. If the board falls in the way to KJ Hamler is the guy with the highest grade on the board at the time they're on the clock, then that could barely very well be the guy. You can never have too much speed on offenses. As the Kansas City Chiefs, they got speed galore. Guys like Miko Hardman and Tyreek Hill. You can either those are two guys that you wouldn't think, oh, there's not enough ball going for the both of them, but there is a Kansas City, and that could be the same way in Baltimore, just because as far as the efficiency of the Ravens passing game. And third guys with third round grades that they see the Ravens targeting would be guys like Quez Watkins. For those of you who aren't familiar with the former Southern Miss standout, he reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs. He's a guy that guy who can run. He can run out of the slot. He can run perimeter. He can make contested catches. He can make back shoulder catches. I mean, the Duke can do it all, and then he also has breakaway speed too. So he's one of those guys that can take a shallow route or a quick slant or quick out, all the way to the house. He can make guys miss in the open field. I really like him a lot. I urge you to go out and check out his film. Another guy who could sneak into the bottom of the second round, but he's going no later than the third, is Devin Duvernay from Texas. He reminds me a lot of Julian Edelman. He's one of the better slot receivers in this year's draft. He's a real shifty dude that can kind of fight through tackles, and also take a slant to the house. He reminds me a lot of Julian Edelman just because he's one of those tough, gritty inside receivers that doesn't mind running across the middle and can really uncover in short areas as well as downfield if given the opportunity. Another guy who could, if he was healthy, if he hadn't broken his foot while training for the combine, a guy like Brian Edwards from South Carolina. Who I compare to another former South Carolina receiver, Alshon Jeffrey, as far as those big-bodied basketball player type receivers that can make those big time catches, big time plays down the middle of the field and down the only difference between Brian Edwards and Alshon Jeffrey is that Edwards has a little bit more deep speed than Jeffrey ever had, and it still doesn't have to this day. But a guy like Brian Edwards, I encourage you to go out and watch his film. Dude is a beast. I mean, he just makes guys look silly out there, catching everybody. I don't know if the term mossing is still a thing, but he be mossing dudes left and right. Um, Another, then kind of going off into more of the Debo Samuel kind of types of guys, the versatile dudes that you can use in an array of ways. Lynn Bowden out of University of Kentucky. This, I mean, whew, I was watching this film earlier today, folks, and I'm telling you, just the way in which he was utilized. This dude was used as at quarterback, receiver, running back, and he's like wildcat quarterback, basically like a running back. I mean, he basically just ran. So like whenever he was lining up under center or behind or shotgun, he was either running a zone read or he was just running a straight QB draws, making people miss, making people look silly. He reminds me of a more athletic and electric Taysom Hill with the ball in his hands. The sky's the limit. I mean, if the Ravens were to take a guy like this, he can make a guy like Trace McSorley and Robert Griffin expendable just for the mere fact that this dude can throw. He can throw the ball too. Like when I say he played running back, receiver, and quarterback for the Wildcats, he did all three. He did them very well. Like I said, a guy like Lynn Bowden out of University of Kentucky, go check out his film. The dude is electric. I mean, he almost reminds me of Lamar Jackson a little bit when he has the ball in his hands when he's in the open field and he's making people miss and he's finishing runs where he's finished. I mean, he's not the biggest dude. There's only like I think he's like 5'10", 5'11", but he can really make people miss in the open field, and it's really good. He even took those snaps to punt returner too, so he can really be that more electric Taysom Hill. He's like I said, he's a younger version of Taysom Hill. He's a more athletic version, a more electric version of Taysom Hill. Not as powerful as physical as a running back. Like I said, he does finish runs with physicality, especially when he's sniffing pay dirt. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. Another guy that I wanted to mention was Antonio Gibson, another good dude who can be used as he's kind of running back receiver hybrid. Oh man, I was watching this film. I have to watch Lynn Bowden's film, and this guy is really something else. And he really resembles the most like Debo Samuel for the fact that he has that really solid build. He's like 6'2", 230 pounds. I mean, he's built like a running back, but he plays receiver. And he's not the most refined route runner. But he can get behind the defense. He can make plays. He can make plays after the catch. I mean, his dead leg cut and his jukes and cuts are out of this world. Brings a lot of ability as a returner as well. So if the Ravens were to be able to land him in the third round, I think he would be a huge, huge asset just because of the multitude of ways he could be utilized in Greg Roman's offense. I mean, the sky's the limit with guys like that. Guys like him and Lynn Bowden, if you can get them in the third round, it's absolute steal. absolute steal. Moving on to guys with who could possibly be day four guys like Eric DaCosta was alluding to that could come in and be immediate contributors right away. Guys like Van Jefferson from Florida. He's the big outside like after Jerry Judy, dude's the best route runner in this draft. I mean, his dad is a receivers coach for the New York Jets. I mean, it's not saying a whole lot for the Jets receivers because they don't really have a lot or any. Uh, but his like I said, his dad his dad he's the son of a coach, and like I said, he reminds me a lot of Adam Thielen as far as like his playing style, as far as that crisp route runner, that attention to detail. I mean, the dude can run any and every route, get separation by any means necessary. But especially with his route running, the way he gets in and out of his breaks to the top of his route is nothing sort of spectacular. Another guy who now his comp, like don't look. I'm not saying that he is this guy that I'm comparing him to, but he has that kind of ceiling. When you watch him play, I mean, it is shades of AJ Green, and that guy is Antonio Gandy Gold, and lit up the Senior Bowl. It's been so he was his stock was rising, but it's kind of cooled off, as of late. But he's a guy that like he's excellent body control, and he same height as AJ Green. They're both 6'4" guys, real lanky dudes, but he can get behind the defense, make contested catches, huge red zone threats. I mean, he's one of those guys that if you get one on one with him in the red zone, it's game over. It's game over unless you got him triple double covered, and even then, he still has the kind of wingspan and arm length to kind of go up there and high point the ball and snatch it out the air. But like I said, if the Ravens can land a guy like him in the if the Ravens can land a guy like him that would be great. And then on the one last guy I wanted to mention, possible, seven, 6 round pick if the Ravens they do end up taking one of the wait that long for a dude, a guy like Adam Humphries from got like not Adam, not Adam Humphries. He reminds me of Adam Humphries and Jamarcus Bradley from Louisiana is one of those dudes. He doesn't really impress you with overall athleticism, but just a guy, one of those guys that just knows how to get open, especially down in the red zone. He's one of those guys when his quarterback starts to scramble, or when he needs somebody to kind of like get open, shake loose from coverage. He's that guy that you can kind of find in the back of the end zone, or just shake on a little quick out route or something like that, to where he can find himself open real quick, being a quarterback's best friend. The last thing I want to talk about before we say goodbye here is just how the Ravens what the Ravens might do at pick 28. Everyone wants to know what to do with the first round pick. I mean, don't be surprised. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. If the Ravens don't pick at 28, if there's not a guy that they value at that pick, if the cupboard's kind of bare as far as where they value guys, they're not going to reach. The Ravens will never reach, and I do anticipate that that the phone's gonna be ringing. Even the DeCosta even said it. The line's open. The Ravens are open the doors about acquiring more picks. So if you think they're going to trade up for one of the top receivers, probably not going to happen. Eric Costa even said that it's always risky to kind of to make that kind of move like that, to trade up. Because we're not in the business. He said they're not in the business of giving up picks, but accumulating more picks. They'd much rather trade back and accumulate more picks and to get more. You get more value and get more swings at some guys in the meat of the draft. Second, third, fourth round, than to give up assets to take players that could come in and contribute for a chance to get a guy that they might not be able to get, even if they do trade up. So it's a risky business trading up. I think the Ravens would probably like to trade back, and much likely will trade back. One scenario I'm gonna lay out there before we head out is just the Ravens trading out of the first round entirely. Last time they did that was back in 2012 when they traded out in the first round entirely, and ended up getting Courtney Upshaw and the Kelechi Osemele. Now, Upshaw wasn't at the dominant pass rusher the Ravens hoped would be coming out of Alabama, but he was solid. He was great he was a great edge setter, and he played a key role in that run to Super Bowl that his rookie year. So I could see the Ravens pulling off a trade where they would trade for with the team that wants to come into the first round, trade back into the first round, and get ahead of some of those other teams in the back half of the first round, and get a quarterback. Like one scenario I'm gonna lay out here goes. Just hear me out. The Baltimore Ravens trade back in the second round, have to get three second round picks. They trade back to the Chargers for a 2 and a 3, Because say the Chargers don't go Tua or Justin Herbert at 6, and they take like a guy like Isaiah Simmons to pair with Derwin James, or they go and pick one of the better tackles in the draft because they traded Russell Okung. I can see a scenario in which the Ravens trade back with the Chargers, and so they can come up and get a guy like Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma, and then the Ravens would be able to they'd have 3 picks in the second round, 3 picks in the third round, and they'd be able to really capitalize and really kind of not let me say rebuild, reload, and kind of revamp address all their needs with high quality players. You're gonna have players in the second and third round with first round grades on them. So don't sleep on that possibility. I see it happening. I can see it now etched in stone. Ravens trading, like a lot of times, we as Ravens fans will sit there the first night of draft waiting for Ravens to pick and then move back and then move back and then move back. And I can see a situation where they don't pick at all on the first round, even if one, Murray or Queen are on the table at the juncture. I think the Ravens might view the reward is worth the risk at that stage. And like, hey, look, I'd rather go back and get a bunch of blue collar blue chip guys than just settle for one at 28 and then hopefully hope that one of the other guys that we want falls to them. So like I said, they don't have a pick in the early second round. So if they were to trade out of the first round entirely and get an early second round pick, maybe they could get one of those one of the top receivers still on the board, or like a guy like Bradley and who might be gone. That's all we have today. Thanks for stopping by. I might not be back for a while just because I got a baby on the way. So thanks again for stopping by.